Cool beans, permanent marker. Holy shit. Alright, I did a video earlier, man, about energy. And I did not read the whole note. It took me by surprise. Or I guess I started trying to explain it before I even, like, whatever got triggered in my head. So let me read it for you. The thought of energy, everything worthy of an accomplishment, right? And then I wrote something, the drive. The drive, the driver. I don't know. Then it struck. Energy exists in three states. Three states, yes. Fight, flight, and freeze. While the state of calm is where everything grows. I misread that last time. Interesting. So I mentioned in the previous video entropy. I've mentioned in the previous video the exchange of energy and a relationship of energy. I didn't really end the actual, 1 second. All right, so I did not end the video I didn't get closure. The minute I finished it, I'm probably gonna review it because I was not able to read properly the last part. And it's fascinating. I'm the universe manifested. But you really have to be able to give attention to the random things that suddenly are not possible and ask yourself why. And the reason I say that is because I was not able to read the last part. I was reading, while the state of calm is where everything grows right now. Calm, I was reading it as cake. And while the state of, when, where is where everything grows. Like I was completely reading the calm as a where, when, something. Didn't make sense. So I never reflected on that. But as I finished and I was kind of going, oh, okay, fuck this shit, I'm done. And I'm scratching the video, right? That's what I do. What happens is I was like, oh, well, the state of calm is where everything grows. And so I was talking about the three states of energy, fight, flight, and freeze, right? And I was discussing whether they're all the same energy or not. It is the same energy, man. Energy lives in states. It's one energy. It doesn't matter. And it's one energy, and at the core, I think it's love energy. It's kind of like, it's abundance, it's give, it's grow, it's feel, it's explore energy, it's just expand, it's, I don't know, touch. So as I was actually having this conversation with you guys, naturally, it's a video, I realized that, like, I talked about the difference between, like, how we're transducers of energy, as in, like, we're nodes within this world where energy kind of like is absorbed by us. And I used an example of people that eat but stay at home, so they don't have a lot of energy, but people that are kind of outside but don't eat as much, and they have more energy. So a mix between the sun, a mix between, like, food, a mix between a whole lot of things, kind of like recharges your existence and allows you to, and gives you energy to kind of like, right? It gives you energy. It's just, it's not coming out of nowhere. It's translating something into energy, whether it is food, whether it's the sun, and all that kind of stuff. So, the ending of this, because it started with the thought of energy, anything worthy of accomplishment, the driven, the drive. And it's stuck. Energy exists in three states. Like, energy is always kind of like finding a place to go to. And I talked about entropy and how basically, like, high energy systems kind of like lose energy to external systems. And that's a low state of entropy. And a high state of entropy is when basically, like, they're absorbing energy from other systems because they're not losing as much. And entropy is literally like, where things kind of like, how energy is dissipates. And human beings, I think, or I feel if you look at it, we tend to try to develop towards focus, and focus is just directing energy. And the whole thing started with like anything worthy of an accomplishment. So what you think of, like here, it's in the actual book. So the thought of energy, anything worthy of an accomplishment, requires kind of like a drive. And energy exists in 3 states, but it's in the state of calm. I mean, like I said 3 states, these states, or let's just say 3 states, fight, flight, and freeze. But it's the state of calm where everything grows. As in, it's where your growth is not dictated by the energy, but by your own utility of the energy. It's your own consumption of the energy. And even in a storm, a tree finds a way to kind of like develop either roots, develop even more leaves, develop even like branches or whatever it is. Even in a storm, people basically like manage to continue living on their lives. Or at the very least think about it from an emitting energy. Like, you know, am I emitting energy? Am I allowing energy to transfer through me? That's the conversation we're having. So, what is the state of calm? Well, the state of calm is the energy that's flowing through you, whether it's fight, flight, or freeze, to not really impact the actions that you're taking. And let me revert to that. I used hot water as an example, right? When it comes to water, water absorbs energy, and when there's no energy poured into water, water releases energy until it finds neutral ground, right? Like, you know, a neutral ground is based on room temperature, or like a neutral ground for water in Alaska is freezing, and neutral ground in the tropics is basically like around like, I don't know, like 40 to 50 degrees. Like the neutral ground for water, basically, like where I lived in Africa, is heat, steam. It's no longer water. On one side, it's basically like, you know, it's very cold, so the expected behavior of water is ice, and that's basically the energy that exists around it. But we can't afford that, because ultimately for us, if we're living in a place that's very cold, our body kind of like heats up, and if we're living in a place that's very hot, our body calms down. So we move energy. We at the very least, we kind of like, you know, adjust energy from a utilities perspective. We adjust energy from we naturally, I think that's the good word. We naturally adjust energy. And so, going back to the whole like transducers, we are basically nodes within this life that kind of like, you know, that absorb energy and emit energy, or translate energy, or transform energy, or like we're at that focal point of where energy kind of like goes, or we could be, right? We're creatives, and it's the consciousness that we have because we're able to like put focused energy on something. I'd imagine when you're seeing whatever, right now I'm putting energy in making a video, other times I'm putting energy in finishing a piece of code, other times I'm putting in an energy to finish a plan / a strategy. All of these are like baby things and steps that we end up interacting with. It's a fascinating state of consciousness, I ain't gonna lie. And who knows? Who knows what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking of theology for a reason. How people who think theology kind of like translates that energy. Or at the very least, how they think, basically, like whatever it is, like the gods they pray for, and how that kind of like, you know, translates or changes the world according to what they want, right? Again, I don't know why I went that big. It's funny, right? Because the whole world is literally like the same. We're not alive, we're life. And the reason life exists is because it's a development of consciousness. And ultimately what life keeps doing is it keeps kind of like interacting with its own self as a conscious thing, right? And it keeps interacting with its own self. And it keeps kind of like, developing. And that's more energy, basically, having more nodes and exploring more things. The interesting part is like, is where energy settles and where energy expands. And normally the in-between is how energy kind of like finds a settling point, and then from that point it also kind of like leaves. But that point kind of has a certain stability behind it. If it doesn't, it deteriorates and dies fast. Whether it is the relationship between steel and oxygen, and that relationship, how steel rusts and kind of like falls apart, or whether it's the relationship between plastic and fire, or fire and almost everything, right? Because like, the transducer of the fire energy, either if it's steel, it melts. If it's shusmo, I feel the only thing that kind of like handles fire is actually like the atmosphere or earth. Because ultimately it just absorbs the whole thing and then slowly releases it back in a different form of energy, right? So, and calmness is not necessarily in fortitude, kind of like, because rocks melt, but it's more in the ability to like take it and release it in a consistent way, maybe. I mean, that's probably what calmness is, and that's probably where growth happens. And maybe actual growth happens when you start. It's not just the energy you're receiving, it's the energy you're choosing to take out of your surrounding. And I feel that's where you explore growth at a much bigger level. That's interesting. Part 2, yeah, why the fuck not, man? Part 1 wasn't really like clarifying anything. Fucking love you.